Ladies and gentlemen, our conference will continue shortly. Please kindly make your way to the grand ballroom. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our conference will continue shortly. Please kindly make your way to the grand ballroom. Thank you.
Sit down.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that we all have had an informative and compelling afternoon. To get to the end of our effective conference today, I would like to welcome again Professor Kenneth Hartigango and his presentation, exploring the intersection of economic and healthcare and assessing its profound impact on the healthcare system. Please welcome Professor.
Pleasant good afternoon to everybody. I'm afraid you have to listen to me again, and I'm standing between this talk and your dinner. I, I'd like to discuss a brand new concept about application of economics in healthcare. And I'm going to introduce a new technique that I guess many organizations and departments or even hospitals would be able to do, and I'll explain why. So nudging in the right policy direction. I declare no conflict of interest in as far as this talk is concerned. Thank you. Okay. My first message is perhaps it's time to innovate and also to mature up if we want healthcare to be that efficient, and we need to challenge the current way we are doing our things. Healthcare in general follows three economic principles. The first one is that it's heavily dependent on supply and demand. Supply is low, demand is high, prices will go up, costs will go up. Market failures are always there and affects provision of care. And that's because there are plenty of inefficiencies that we see in the delivery of healthcare. It's not always our fault, but there are many externalities. The next part is these externalities in healthcare affect quality of health services. And I will explain what this is in the subsequent slides. You're aware that by the year 2030, the World Health Organization has predicted that we may have something like 10 to 13 million health worker deficiency. We will have shortage. And do you know what this means? That the ratio of healthcare between a healthcare provider and the number of patients will be compromised. And what does it mean? The quality of care will go down. And what else does it mean? It means that equity is not going to will happen. Those who are rich, has money, will be able to access the best health care. But people, the majority who have no money, will probably have to endure the poor quality of care. Not only that, countries with enough money and resources whose own citizens do not want to take up nursing or medical field will import from countries that are producing healthcare worker. And because of the economic benefits that is being provided, including visa and immigration status, you would now see that the Asian countries are going to lose many healthcare workers to other countries. And this is one of the externalities on healthcare that affects the economics of what we're doing. The questions we need to ask ourselves is this: how do we merge health first as a public good and that as a commodity of trade? The second question we need to ask, are we doing our very best to produce future-ready health worker? If you look at the externalities of healthcare that we have, I will summarize it into four. There are many more, but maybe I'll summarize it into four blocks. The first one is socio-economic environment. The rich country versus poor country. Hospitals with better facilities will charge more money. There's also a physical environment problem. There's a genetics that affects our health. And lastly, there are commercial determinants. Now, many government agencies don't understand commercial determinants. They believe, and it's not wrong, but it is an old belief that it's their job to provide the basic services. But there comes a point in time with advancing technology, the government is not able to provide all this advanced technology. They need to partner with private institution and private sector because innovations do come from industry like pharmaceutical companies because of the research and development. Moving forward, we like to say that there's market failure in the healthcare system, and it stems from two things. Information asymmetry. Those who have information holds power. Those who don't have to rely on other people feeding them that information. And this asymmetry sometimes builds mistrust. In economics, these are realities. Secondly, the power dynamics between those who makes decision and those who have to do regulatory compliance. The important point we have here is, despite all these protocols that we have set in place, we think that we have created an ideal system. At the end of the day, the patients make decision based on emotion. Decision for healthcare for them is an emotional decision. And we need to understand our customers, our client carefully. It's not just the prescribers or the doctors who interface. We now have to understand what patients need. Let's talk a little bit about health insurance. The principle of health insurance is based on two things: solidarity, that people are willing to contribute money to pool, and that money is pooled in order to prevent people from getting into financial risks. When they get sick, they will be bankrupt, they will get poor, they have to pay out of pocket. And the purpose of health insurance is to pool that money and help other people. But it is important that those who contribute the money have to stay healthy. It doesn't mean you have a right to get sick. It is in our power to do everything to keep healthy so that the money you contribute to the next person, the neighbor, who for some reason beyond their control gets sick, they have something to hold on. So that one day you might need that money and be able to use it properly. The second part is the principle of equity. And sometimes the ones who makes a decision don't really appreciate what equity is. It's not equality that everybody receives the same thing. Equity means those who have less is expected to receive more in order to keep up with being healthy. The role of government, therefore, is to secure health insurance institution, helping private institution or even their own state institution that they're able to do their job and deliver what they promise. But importantly, government also use the principle of solidarity, but they also have a duty of care to improve health equity, but also to prevent moral hazard. Moral hazard simply means that a patient is abusing the system of healthcare even though they don't need it, and therefore may deny people who actually need that healthcare and that money because it's been taken by people who shouldn't be taking it. And it is really the job of government to do this appropriate cost containment. In this ecosystem, there are players like HMOs, and they apply the same perspective, even though they come from a private sector view. But they unfortunately are being accused, sometimes unnecessarily, for too much cost containment in withholding payment where it's due. Maybe there's some truth to that criticism, but not all HMO behave that way. So, in terms of standard economic theory, we have failed to account for certain anomalies. These anomalies stem from individual decisions for healthcare. As I said earlier, it's quite based on emotion, and that is individual behavior models simply cannot predict all the things that we're thinking of. And I've seen that from medical organizations who are highly specialized. They believe what they're doing is the right thing, and they're now wondering why people are not following all the guidelines that we're imposing so that they become healthy. Let's examine why. This is where the new branch of economics called behavioral economics come in. Let me share to you some example. I'd like to introduce a new theory. I don't know how many of you have heard a principle called nudge. Sort of push or nudge or lead people in the direction. So this nudge behavior economics is something new. We're teaching MBA students. How do you use commercial models, industry selling product, nudging them to the right behavior? Let's borrow some of the paradigms, and hopefully the medical organizations here, the leaders, heads of departments and hospital might be able to pick up some lessons and apply it in improving health outcomes. Normally, what we would do is to look from a medical society perspective of specialists. We would say, yeah, we have a program for cardiovascular, we have a program for tuberculosis. Let's do information campaign. Let's do the information approach. By giving information and education, putting out newspapers and audiovisual, social media, people who reads it are intelligent enough to follow. But why is it that they don't? The second approach is financial. We give incentives or we withhold finances, and in such way people will behave accordingly. Sometimes it doesn't work. There's also the regulatory approach where government says, obey or we penalize you. You have to do this, otherwise we will take all your license away and things like that. Doesn't always work, right? Nudge, behavioral design is what I want to share with you this afternoon. Take a look at this slide. Guess what country this is? Asian country. Come on. Anybody? Take a guess. Singapore? Yeah, very good. This is Singapore. I love food in Singapore. Have you been to the hawker center, food court, and lots of good food, right? Now, the Singaporean government years ago, many years ago, have decided that we have to do health promotion, and we want the stalls to serve food by giving customers more vegetables if they ask for it, in the attempt to get them healthy, right? And they also impose a few private stalls, right? Oh, by the way, their stalls sometimes have Michelin stars. It's very impressive. But they talk to the stall owners and say, why don't you, instead of putting, give choices to the consumer, the ordinary noodles versus the wheat noodles, which are conceptually more healthy. At the end of the day, the customers would prefer to use a traditional high carbohydrates type of noodle instead of using high fiber noodles. It doesn't always work, right? In some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't. So this is an attempt to get people's behavior by giving the options there in front of them. Okay. Next. You like coffee, right? Vietnam serves excellent coffee. You go to Starbucks, you go to other commercial coffee place. What do they do for you when you ask for coffee? When you buy a coffee, they'll say, "Would you like a pastry? Or would you like something from one of the cabinets there? Maybe we'll heat it up for you and all that." What are they trying to do? They're trying to sell you other things by offering a suggestion at the point of sales, right? And you say, "Oh, why not?" Especially if the person is very friendly and very charming, you say, "Yeah, sure, let's get one of those pastries together with my coffee." Sales. But you manage to control the behavior, influence the behavior, right? Second, how about going to fast food hamburger joint? What happens when you order hamburger, a package? They say, "Would you want to upscale your drinks? A sugar drink from a medium to a extra large size." And you say, "How much?" "Oh, well, for a small price of this." "Oh, yeah, sure. I'll buy this sugary drink for a little bit more money. I'm getting something out of it," not realizing there is an effect on your health. But this is the principle of upsell. Now, how many of us are doing programs that are using this kind of technique? How can you use this kind of commercial techniques in creating better health outcomes beyond education, beyond patient literacy, beyond giving them the rules of better lifestyle? How about this? Many of you go to the grocery, buy food, right? In your back home, you go to the community grocery, and what happens? Placing at the eye level a certain commodity means you want to sell that product more and faster. And this is a technique because it's at the eye level of a consumer, first to catch attention. And this is one way of, selling things that you want to sell quickly. Perhaps near expiry or, near best before date type of food, you want to get over with it. This is one way of doing it. The other one is restaurant. You like going to a restaurant? Yeah, I guess so, right? You don't have to cook. You go to a good place, ambience. Why do they play loud music? And music that with fast tempo, especially in the buffet environment? Because the principle there is we want you to eat fast. Get out of this place so that the table can now be set for the next customer. And this is a proven study in science. Again, an application of economics in influencing behavior. The other one that has been used as an example is, can we sell some healthy snacks? And guess where they put the healthy snack? Normally, this is not the first thing being bought and chosen inside a grocery, a shopping mall. They would put them beside the cashier as a last thought. Oh, there's a healthy snack. Maybe I should pick up before I pay in the cashier. And this is another technique that commercial market has taken on cue to help. And what could we learn from here? right? All right, for you men who cannot aim properly, what is this? This is in a toilet in the Schiphol airport in Amsterdam, right? This is a toilet. This is a toilet thing for men, no? They stand up and they do their thing. But men are not good aimers. They spill on the floor and create dirt and wetness and all that thing. So guess what? What is that fly over there doing? It's not a real fly. It's a painting. Okay. It's nudging the men to make sure that you hold your thing properly and make sure that you aim towards that fly so that it goes down. It doesn't spill outside of that little thing, right? And doesn't make the floor dirty and wet. It works because they have now these things all over different places. Just because we don't know how to aim. Shame on us, man. No? Okay. But it works. Another example of nudge. You make it easy. You make it simple. You make it accessible. You make people don't have to think, but they just adjust to that environment. But it happens also in the hospital, right? You have along the corridors before you enter the room of a patient, sometimes a disinfectant. And this one is even attached to the foot of the bed so that any doctor, any nurse, any caregiver intervening with the patient, what would they do? Clean up, disinfect before you touch the patient. And you do the same after touching the patient, right? So it cuts down on microbial contamination and nosocomial infection. Okay? It minimizes it. Let's do a few more examples, okay? Organ donation. If one were to write kidney, liver, cornea, heart as the first choice, people are going to think about it. So what you do is you say, the first choice given to everybody is all the organs. And because the person says, okay, check, I won't be bothered with the little things anymore. So now you win. You now have a person who's willing to donate the person's organ in case something happens to him. Right? By just adjusting the options, by putting it as a first option, will help increase your targets. This is from a country called Japan, in a place called Chiba. And they were doing some exercise on colonic CA detection. The first option was to say, if you take this screening test this year, you will receive another screening for next year. First option. Guess what? Not many people go for it. However, now they nudge it by showing a second benefit, a second message. You say, if you do not take this screening test, you're not going to receive the screening test next year. And that improved it by 7% uptake. Why? Human behavior says, loss is greater than gain. I don't want to lose. I want to gain. And since I'm going to lose, I will take option B. Okay? More people will now gravitate to that. So again, understanding human psychology, human behavior, application of marketing techniques, subtle, might improve health outcomes, but we're not taking advantage of this in different medical organizations. Maybe time to think differently, right? Okay. The principle of reciprocity. If you ask somebody to donate an organ or agree to an organ donation to somebody who needs it, are you likely to get that person to say yes? Honestly. Maybe no, right? However, if you reverse the message through a principle of reciprocity saying, wait, if you were in need of an organ, would you have one? You would say yes, because you want to live. That will up the chance of that person also saying, I will donate my organ when other people need it. You get me? So they feel the word because I need it. It emotionally creates the need for them to help somebody else in the future. Social norm versus artificial norm. How many of you are working in a clinic and you tell the patient, please arrive on time for my clinic consultation, my surgery? Yeah? You ask patient to come on time, right? However, they don't come on time for various reasons, and you get frustrated, you get angry. But more often the time, our experience is that doctors don't come on time. Anyway, however, if you present another option, which is artificial norm, the majority of the population, the people, will say, I want to belong to that group. So if you offer an option B that says, you know, in this clinic, I'm the doctor. In this clinic, 80% of our patients arrive on time for their appointment. So they will say, oh, I want to be part of that 80%. I don't want to be criticized for, coming late. That is a principle. I want to be identified as a target population doing the right thing. Okay, this is one example. So in its entirety, this core, there are 3 steps to implement a nudge behavioral economics. So I'd like you to take some serious thought about it. The first one is identify the target behavior you want to change. Some people are not clear, they're very vague, they just want the patient to comply. But be very specific. If you could identify it in a sentence, what you want the patient to do. Second, what are the enablers and what are the barriers of that behavior? You need to break it down to understand so that you do that with SWOT, right? Strength, weakness, threat, opportunities. You deal with it so that you can have a matrix. You know how to address that. And then lastly, design and implement the nudge. And there are rules for that. Make it easy. Make it attractive. Make it socially acceptable. And make it timely intervention. So it's called the EASE framework. You could find this out in the public domain by Googling it. What is nudge behavioral economics? And you will hit on the same thing, right? Those examples I gave you, giving them as a first option, default, eye level, are some of the examples of making it easy. And then you create a behavioral process map as a way to create a strategy. Sir Michael Marmot from the United Kingdom, he has mentioned that the solution to healthcare is not in medicine. The solution to medicine for better outcome is really in what we call social determinants of health. And he broke it, there were many of them, but he broke it down to something simple, the 3-letter E's. First, good education. Good education that gives them critical thinking. Second, they have employment. They have money that gain from employment. Because of that power, education, knowledge, money to decide, now they go to the third one, which is the economic freedom to choose the right thing. Okay? You don't impose anything, they will choose the right thing. Lifestyle change is one of your friends in dealing with non-communicable disease. Make it work for you. So it's about creating a choice architecture. Nudge, however, there are caveats. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It will be dependent on your target population and the message you want to send. Crucial to consider cultural context. Implementing this nudge. Now, it's now time to utilize behavioral insights in policymaking and also in our own little clinical interventions. So, a nudge has 3 main features. Important to remember. Number 1, it does not force people to do a particular behavior. You're leading the way, but you're not forcing them. It's a free choice. Second, it preserves the freedom of choice. The third one is it doesn't offer large economic financial incentives. So there another way to look at it is nudge is a form of social marketing. How do we apply principles of commercial marketing and use it for public health? In this case, non-communicable disease. What are the concepts needed to influence the determinants of health? Making impact to people in the right choice for healthy lifestyle. And coming to a close, thank you very much. Come on. I hope you learned something this afternoon. And right on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Kenneth. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your listening. Today's conference would like to end here, and it is our pleasure to invite you to join dinner with us at the Brazilian restaurant located on the second floor. And if you have any question about the meeting schedule, please contact our VH staff. Thank you to all of our delegates once again, and have a good evening. Xin cảm ơn.